For 30 years, David Kelley and his brother Tom have taken familiar products and made them better. Their design firm, IDEO, re-engineered everything from the computer mouse to television remote controls and even the classroom chair. Earlier this year, David Kelley spoke with us for 60 Minutes. If you follow David Kelley around IDEO, you can see how he has infused that thinking into the legendary Palo Alto firm he founded more than 20 years ago. Breakthrough ideas happen every day here. The key to unlocking creativity at IDEO may be their unorthodox approach to problem solving. They throw a bunch of people with different backgrounds together in a room. So you're in the business end?
Yep.
My background's in software engineering.
Journalism. Aerospace engineer.
Doctors, opera singers, and anthropologists, for example, and get them to brainstorm. You got to have a certain culture. You got to have collaboration. You got to have diversity. You got to have an anthropologist and a business person and an engineer and a computer scientist. All of those kinds of.
You got it. That's the hard part. Is the cultural thing of having a diverse group of people and having them be good at building on each other's ideas.
Now the brothers have put out a new book. It is called Creative Confidence: Unleashing the Creative Potential Within All of Us. David and Tom Kelley, welcome.
Thanks.
So what is creative confidence?
Well, it's really two things. It's the natural human ability to come up with breakthrough ideas combined with the courage to act on those ideas. Because when we did 100 interviews from the book, what we discovered is some people have the ideas, but they have fear of being judged. And so they just hold it all in. And then their idea disappears. And so it's the ability to come up with the ideas, but the courage.
And you both believe that everybody can be creative. I tell you, after looking at the book, I am thinking differently. You said everybody. I've never believed that.
You know, well, look at little kids in kindergarten.
Yes.
Everybody, you know, they're making a picture of a chicken with 4 legs, and mom puts it up in the refrigerator and says, "Yay!" So we all have it in kindergarten, and somewhere along the line,
in 4th grade, you say.
I think it's about 4th grade. You opt out and think of yourself as not creative because you're kind of being judged by your peers, or a teacher tells you that's not a very good drawing or whatever, and it's just too bad. But the wonderful thing is, we don't have to teach creativity by the time they get to me in college. You know, it's just all they need is to kind of have a few small successes. So we kind of hold their hands and have a few small successes, and they say, "Oh my God, I am a creative person."
Yeah. Well, this is what's so fascinating. You two are brothers. You write in the book that you shared a bedroom for 14 years together. You said your brother David was always creative, even inventing a telephone for his girlfriend that only dialed his number. I love that. And Tom, you said that you were very traditional, but yet the two of you made a vow to work together because.
Right. Well, we kind of approached this work from different directions, but we've ended up working, like I said, almost 3 decades
that
together.
Work shouldn't feel like work. That's the thing that struck me about this book. You never use the word work.
Right. Well, it is, it is fun. We know people who kind of drag themselves into work every day, but we think, you can think of it as a job or a career or a calling. And once it's a calling, it's just fun. It's intrinsically rewarding. I think, there's a group of people who don't necessarily have to work, and you still want to because
you love what you do, and it's passion.
I have young children, and I see this happen early on in schools. They say, "Oh, that child is very creative," and you get the assumption that people are born creative, and yet you do not believe that, as Gail mentioned earlier. But you also think you can teach and continue to foster creativity.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny, somehow we have sort of creativity tied up with kind of talent, and it's really not the case. So, you don't really expect a person to sit down at the piano and play for the first time. Like that would be crazy. But we somehow think that either you can draw or you can't draw. Drawing takes just as much practice as playing the piano does. And so you find your different ways. You may be a creative curator. You may be a creative person who figures things out in new ways and still can't draw, right? But so creativity needs to be defined as the ability to kind of come up with new ideas in kind of unique ways.
Right. Creativity from Silicon Valley. Tell us about Steve Jobs' creativity, how he approached problems.
Well, Steve was wildly creative. It was kind of unbridled. I mean, imagine a kid telling Shakespeare he wasn't creative. Let's just say that. I'm sure if anybody would have told Steve Jobs he wasn't creative, he'd have told, he'd have ignored them, right? Yeah. And so, but Steve's creativity to me was about inspiring others, mostly. He got the best out of me. He got the best out of every designer he ever did. But the other thing is, he did everything with intention. If you think about being creative, you just take all the little parts of a project, what that adds to, and then you say, how can I make this little piece, extraordinary? How can I make this little piece extraordinary?
For someone who's listening to you, what is the first thing we should do if we think, I'm not creative?
Yeah.
I want to be creative.
Yeah, so get the book.
Other than that,
but the whole thing is getting in and building empathy for people. We find that we think this thing called bias towards action, where you jump right in. I mean, so many people spend time planning and think, I'm going to go. Instead, just jump in. If you're designing a new, bicycle, go out, watch people ride bicycles. Talk to people who don't ride bicycles. Ride a bicycle yourself. Go to the stores. I mean, all of that, we call it empathy. You're having empathy for the people. If I'm trying to please a certain person, I really want to build empathy for them. And I think it's kind of an underserved area. We mostly look at technology or business and come up with those kind of ideas and then try to convince people that they might like it. It's much better, I believe, to go out and really build empathy for people. What do they really want? What's meaningful to people is really where we go. If it's meaningful for people, then in some ways it's easier to go find technologies and business ideas that solve that particular problem.
Can I just read one of the recommendations on the back of the book? It says, they describe a way of thinking that will change your professional and personal life. Charlie Rose. That's a pretty good recommendation.
We brought in the big guns for the blurb.
You bought in a B-52. Nicely done.
David and Tom Kelley, thanks so much.